it's very difficult to live not knowing what is wrong with you and having all of these things wrong with you.
For me, you're like the girl who never gives up, basically.
You're probably going to make me cry a lot. Yeah, it's you can't with this condition. So I was born with a rare genetic disorder called Bardet-Biedl syndrome. I was diagnosed late at 21 because I was born in Spain and extra fingers and toes don't mean anything to them. If I'd born here or in America, they would have picked it up because there's only BBS and I think 1 or 2 other conditions where you have extra fingers and toes. So I was diagnosed really late. It was a very difficult process to be diagnosed. There are 15 genes at the moment for BBS. And within that, each person can actually have 2 different strains of BBS. So each gene has at least, 50 to 100 different symptoms. That's why each BBS person, especially if you have 2 BBS genes, could have upwards of 200 different symptoms. A lot of us are mentally challenged. Is that the right words?
Whatever's PC these days.
I don't know. That's why.
Me neither. And I don't care, do you?
No. Yeah. So a lot of us are mentally challenged. Up until this year, I didn't think I was, but I've actually found out I have autistic tendencies and more autistic things are coming out of the woodwork as I live my day-to-day life. I have quite severe sight problems. So I've got no peripheral sight. I've got a cone rod dystrophy. So that means that my light and my dark cells are dying. So my light cells are completely gone. So I get 30 small headaches a day and 15 major ones. And then my dark cells, I think they're gone quite a lot because I struggle in the dark now. But I think because we don't really go out that often in the dark for me, I don't really realise when it's going. And then suddenly I do something in the dark and I'm like, whoa, okay, big change from last time.
Right.
I'm completely shade blind. So all colours, I'm not just colourblind, I see all colours mix. So you know when you mix colours to paint something, that's what I see. So I'll see 4 or 5 colours for each thing. So it's not going to really work with your top, but it looks dark green, black, blue, and maybe purple. And I'd probably say it's either black or blue.
Yeah, it's black.
Our reproductive systems are not normal. I'm really lucky. I have both my ovaries. I could have children if I want to. I only get a period maybe once a year. Sometimes it'll go even years. And when I get it, it's really scary because to me, I don't know I'm supposed to be female. So I'm trying to keep it non-gross.
Don't worry.
When that happens, I get oh my God, I'm bleeding. And then Dad goes, you're a woman, you're supposed to, remember what it's like. And then for me, I have anywhere from a week to a month of almost no, very small amount, and terrible cramps. I feel very ill. But there are women with BBS that have no ovaries, 1 ovary. From what I've read, I believe the men are infertile. I'm not 100% sure. Generally, it happens, I believe, from a BBS and a carrier or 2 carriers. So my parents, there's a 1 in 2 chance. And my parents each were carriers, and when they made me, they were both missing the same gene, and I was missing the same gene on each side, and that's what makes BBS. I speak very well, but I do have a stutter. I do have learning difficulties, dyslexia, dyspraxia. My kidneys, touch wood, I'm really lucky. We can again be born with 1 or none. They are functioning normally. But I have to be very careful. I can get an infection, within minutes if I get cold. Oh, and obviously, my big one, what am I doing? My weight and my hypothalamus. So I don't have nerves in my hypothalamus, so I'm permanently starving, permanently thirsty, and don't have a temperature gauge. So to see me in a long sleeve top is a big deal because literally I get very warm or very, very cold, the extremes. I have lost about 6 stone 2 in the last 7 years. 13 pounds to go till I'm at 100 pounds lost.
Well, flipping done.
There are lots of medical tests out there that may diagnose you with a condition, and you may pass that test even though you have that condition.
Right.
So my mum was actually the first person who actually diagnosed me with BBS. They had a discovery in America and it was on the news. They gave you, BBS has something like hundreds, maybe thousands of symptoms. Each person is different. Each gene sector is different. And they put 10 up on the screen and I had every single one of it. So I then was sent to Professor Beals at Guy's and St Thomas's before they actually had the full functioning clinic. And he diagnosed me on the spot. I'm learning that I may have autism in certain ways, that if we hadn't had a leak in the house, I wouldn't know I had it, literally because half our house got flooded and we had to live in a hotel for 3 months. And I didn't realize, even though after my morning routine, I'm flexible to be spontaneous and do whatever, but if you interrupt that routine in the morning, it really messes with my head. I'm much better since the flood because of the fact that it was up and everything was crazy. But we saw that, and then when we were in the hotel, they switched our room and it was a duplicate copy but flipped. And when I walked into that room, my mind broke for an hour. I just sat there going, I don't know, I can't do that. This is I can't, rooms, it just really, I got stuck almost on a loop, a recorder, and my brain just was breaking a bit. I self-diagnosed myself with autism because of that, and because ironically, the time I saw this, I was speaking with the BBS people, and they said 95% of BBS people have some sort of autism.
Right.
It may be very low like me, or it may be really high. So with that, and coupled with the start of it, and in the last couple of weeks, I've been having more therapy because of relationship problems, and I've definitely seen that it's come out. It is literally you become completely irrational, even though I have all the tools from therapy to know how to deal with stuff, but my brain takes a vacation. And so I have type 2 diabetes, but it's not anything the doctors have ever seen. Just to clarify for the viewers, it's normal is between 4 and 6, or it's about, I think it's 70 and 100 or 120 for America. That's the different types of measuring. And I've lived between 25 to 30 on a daily basis. I am a medical, walking corpse, basically. I should be dead. Not even in a medical coma, I should be legally dead with those blood sugars. Up until this year, I haven't had any symptoms from it. This year, ironically, my blood sugars are now between sort of 12 and 25 on a bad day, but generally 12 and 20. And the diabetic retinopathy in my eyes is gone huge. Literally last year I had nothing, and this year it's so bad they sent me to the specialist. I'm waiting on results. So that's quite, when it happened, I was quite upset, because you do all this work and you do all this changing, and then you can have something like this happen where it goes poo poo. So I'm trying not to swear.
Don't worry about swearing, you let loose, whatever you need to say.
Okay, well, fuck you then. No matter what you do, you're always going to be sick, you're always going to be unwell. And to some people that would make you go, well, fuck it, I don't care, there's no point. But then I know for me, when I eat, because I eat mainly, we'll go into it more later, but I eat primarily a vegan plant-based diet. And that, it took me, well, it's basically taken, I've been trying to do it for the last 3 years. So let's say out of 7, let's say 4 or 5 years to go through all of the different diets in the world. And we'll talk about that more, to get to what works. 7 years ago, I was eating 5,000 plus calories a day. And now I generally eat, well, on a good day, I'd say about 2002 to 2005. And on a bad day, maybe 3,000, 3,005. I can gain and lose up to, well, it used to be half a stone in a day. Because obviously, literally, if I just ate a little bit less, it would be a huge deficit for me.
Right.
Excuse me. Now it is about 3 to 5 pounds, depending. But with my type 2 diabetes, they've never seen it before. I'm allergic to insulin. I'm allergic to all medication. When I was on insulin, I was like, for a type 1, normal is sort of taking about 80 to 100 units of insulin a day. I was taking 1,000, I think, milligrams of insulin a day of 2 different types. I was giving myself 30 shots a day. Again, I have to make a big, like, alert thing to people. I am not your normal BBS person. I am not the norm. Most of the people don't have a degree. They don't have a marriage. They don't have their own home. They live with their parents most of their lives. They get either they try and do their food, or they're having to be hand given their food and not have any interaction with food. And I'm a chef, so I think that would drive me a bit crazy. And my spine's a fun story. I'm going to try and condense it because it's a very long one. About, I'd say 9 years ago now, 2 years before I started working on this, I woke up one morning and I had terrible pain in my hips, and this kept happening to the point where, like, I couldn't sit, I couldn't stand, I couldn't, like, lay down. I, like, literally took like half an hour, and I'd have to, like, it was like revving an engine. I had to get going. And so we thought, like, something was wrong with that. And then it got worse. So I'd be sitting for lunch, and when I finished lunch, I couldn't stand up. I couldn't actually use my legs. And so basically it got to the point where I was walking at the age of, like, I'm 32, so like 25, 27. I had old 80-year-old people, patients in front of me, walking faster than me. So we, again, went to lots of doctors, and this is the medical mystery again. I had steroid injections put in my hips, which did the opposite. So basically it almost paralyzed me. You're supposed to be able to get up, and, like, they make you walk for an hour after the operation. They do it, you're awake, and they do it, like, under, I think it's local anesthetic is when you're awake.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And they do it through x-ray, so it's not like a proper, it's just trying to get the spot. And they're like, well, if it doesn't hurt, it's the right place. Well, I screamed and cried through the whole procedure, to the point where the nurses were having to come and hold my hand because I was convulsing and shaking. And then literally a distance that maybe would take a normal person 5 minutes, it took me an hour to walk. So he's like, this isn't the problem, but there's something obviously wrong. So I then went off and sort of got a bit scared, thinking there may be something wrong with my spine. And then I had a spinal x-ray, a spinal MRI at about 5 years ago, and they said I might have facet joint disease.
Oh, okay.
It's basically, do you know that?
Yeah, I was reading about it 2 days ago. Weird.
That's so cool. Should I say a little bit for the viewers?
Please. Yeah.
So from what I believe, it's to do with 2 joints in your spine. Between the front and the back of the spine, there's like a sac of fluid, and that they don't, like, when you sit down and when you stand up, they don't, like, do the right thing, and that's why you're in pain. Like, I would scream if I had to go from one position to the other. So they said it's really bad, you need to have a spinal operation, you need to, you know, do all this stuff. And I went, hell no, I'm not having open spinal surgery. with everything else. Also, at that time, it was very heavy. I was at least I was 23 stone at my heaviest, so I was about 22, 21 stone. And that, even now at 17 stone, I'm still a medical risk to be put to sleep.
Right, okay.
So I went, no. I walked away, I went, I'll just live with it. I've lived with everything else about me. I'll just live with it, you know. And so fast forward to 2 years ago, I wake up one morning and I'm paralyzed from the waist down. The only thing I could do was be pulled up by my husband. I couldn't pick my feet off the floor. They were dragging. My legs were so heavy, I couldn't pick them up. I literally had to drag my feet and my legs to go to the loo, and that was the only thing I was could do. And whilst I was doing that, I was screaming in pain. So the medical test started again, and it went from, you know, once or twice a week of being paralyzed if I sat down for too long or lie down stayed in one position for too long, to now being paralyzed on a daily basis if I don't take CBD oil and vape.
Oh, okay.
It's my saving grace. And again, that goes back to the doctors are not always right. Yeah. They can be wrong. There have been some incredible doctors in my life who have given me, things that I really needed, you know, Professor Beals with diagnosis, you know, it's very difficult to live not knowing what is wrong with you and having all of these things wrong with you. And Professor Bird, who was the first person to diagnose me with a sight problem, and the hundreds and hundreds of doctors that I have in my life or had in my life at one point or another, there are some amazing doctors out there. Sorry.
No, don't ever be sorry. You are amazing.
Thank you. So they then proceeded to pump me full of gamma radiation and do a CT of hip to spine, which proceeded to paralyze me when I came out of the machine.
My goodness.
So I was wheeled out to Dan, my husband, and Eve, my service dog, and he, as I'm proceeding having a panic attack because I put myself into hypnosis state when I'm in the machine. So It basically goes, not now, not now, not now, not now, not now, not now, not now. And then the minute I come out the machine, I start to hyperventilate, I start to black out, I can't move, I can't speak, I cry, and then they take me to Eve and she stops it within a minute or two, depending how severe it's got. So then they sent me to London, where I proceeded to be stuck with needles in my muscles for nerve conduction and electrocuted, which in one way was really nice because I learned that I have no I'm not going to be able to say it now, the diabetic condition, nerves.
Neuropathy.
Yes, neuropathy. Thank you, Vicky. Which is a big deal when you have blood sugars that are so high for so long. In that process of all of these tests, I found an amazing brain doctor. I actually finally was explained what is really wrong with my hypothalamus, because to me, I had always been told, well, we don't really know what it is, but you're missing this. So I actually thought I was missing the gland in my brain, when actually that's not the case. I have the gland, I'm actually missing the nerve. So the plug that communicates between the gland and the brain isn't there, which is why my stomach never feels full. So even when I eat, I'm starving. So my mom, she went, right, I want you to go see the best spinal doctor in England. And we saw him and he went, there's nothing wrong with you. You can't walk, you get bouts of paralyzation every day, but there's nothing wrong with you. So I sat there in the doctor's office crying my eyes out, because I'm not scared of being paralyzed and being in a wheelchair, because at least then I'd know what's wrong with me. I'm more scared of having another one on the list. That means, oh, you have another thing that we don't know about. We don't know what's wrong with you. We don't know how to manage your pain. They wanted to put me on injectable morphine. You know, I would lie on a daily basis on my sofa and cry in pain when I wasn't even moving. That's how much pain I was in. I left that office and I said, Dan, we need to stop at Holland & Barrett and get CBD oil. I did my research from that night all the way to when we bought it, looking, and They do a wheel chart of different conditions that CBD covers, and then also an average of how much you would be taking. And so when I looked at the chart from injectable morphine pain, they said about 120 to maybe 200 milligrams, which is a very high dose.
Right.
So I got the bottle from, Holland Barrett, and it says put 2 drops under your tongue once a day for like 2 weeks. And I went, that's not gonna, I need it now. I did 4 centimeter bits twice a day. Within 24 hours, I could pick my feet up 2 centimeters off the floor.
Wow.
You will still have pain. You're gonna always have pain because there is something wrong. But this allows me to walk. This allows me to live. Even, when I come down in the morning and I'm doing the dishes, I start to have an episode if I've not taken my evening meds, and it will get to the point where I'm dragging my legs, I'm limping, and I have to finish and come and lie down and take my meds because I will then end up paralyzed if I don't take them in time. For about a year now, I'd say, I'm pretty set on my dosage. The only sort of time that my meds don't really work, no matter whether I've just had them, I'm having them, is in the car. And we think that's literally just a pressure thing because it doesn't happen anywhere else now. I think I'm doing pretty well because I don't have them that bad anymore. Okay. So I will still get paralyzed, but it's how far do I let it go? It's being aware of...
Now, within our little community in my group, you're renowned for never giving up on the dieting, and you've tried an awful lot of different diets, haven't you?
So when I say, I did a lot of different things, I did them for at least a month, maybe 2 months at a time, or longer. There were times I would get frustrated and be like, right, I'm going to cut calories and I'm going to do this, and it doesn't work. That's what I've learned through all of the things, all of the diets, that, when I talk about the way I eat, it's not a diet. It's the rest of my life. And I'm always going to have to make improvements. Every day, because of my condition, I learn something different. We're going back now 7 years. I would eat on a daily basis. I would have takeout 3 times a day, 7 days a week. I would have 3 of the Angus double big burgers that are this big. I'd have 3 of them. I'd have 3 supersized fries. I'd have 2 chicken sides, 2 cheese sides, and a dessert and a soft drink. I would get to the point where my stomach would be so full, I would vomit. And I would only vomit a tiny bit because I have a really good regurg. So I obviously would gain all the weight, and I would just sit there it got to the point where I'd just sit there and my belly would hurt so bad because I'd eaten so much, because I didn't know how to stop myself. Some days I wake up and I am I've been starved for 5 months. I'm ravished. I will just literally eat all day long. And I'm really lucky. I guess I've shrunk my stomach enough that I will only gain a pound or stay the same on that day. But I literally will eat to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm in pain. And then I stop, which is incredible to stop then and give myself, I try and go, let's have 3 or 4 hours. And to come back from having eaten for so many hours and stop myself, that's really, really difficult. And I have to do it like a drug addict. So I have to go 1 minute. Or, I know it sounds a bit weird, but I'll go to the loo. So that gives me, because of my bladder issues, that gives me 3 or 5 minutes. And so that starts the ball. But at the beginning, it was actually, I could only go 1 minute between eating. And then I'd go, you're going to have it. You can have it when you want it, but let's see how long you can go till you eat it. And I would get to half an hour. I'd get to 45 minutes. I'd get to an hour. And then I'd break. But that point right there, I have to bring up a really important issue, is I have failed, and I still fail pretty much most days. I say every day of my life I've failed with my eating. But the way I look at it is, you wake up tomorrow morning and you start again and you do your very best. I juice fasted, and that was one of my very first. I did 10 days straight. I lost a pound a day. But I learned from that it's not, I fell off the wagon so quickly. I went, right, this is something that makes me feel really good. It was a really easy way to get the fruit and the vegetables in me. I have to say, I was drinking pretty much really high veg, quite low, fruit, and being like, drink it down, which you do when you start to do those crazy sort of diets. Yeah. I try to fast long term. I constantly try and do it, and I'm so impressed with you, Cookie. You are my living dream. For me to fast more than a day is a miracle. And I think you said you've done how long have you fasted for?
Water fasting, 3.5 days is my longest.
but that's still incredible.
But I don't have BBS.
Yeah, but you know me, I strive to do the incredible and the crazy and the things like that. So that's one of my dreams, and I try. And I just realized that I would fall off the wagon even worse with the BBS because, okay, I learned things from it. So I learned I can't do that, but I can do a compromise of the intermittent fasting. I also found that the longer I fast, the quieter Mr. Hypothalamus is up there.
Yes.
That's why I wanted to do fasting more than anything, was quick results as well as the health results. And having genetic conditions, I was like, oh, would it be able to wipe out all these dead things? I know you can't get rid of my condition. That's in my DNA. That made me. But I meant more like, could it help my kidneys, maybe make them a bit stronger, or help my hair, or help, I had eczema on my elbows, and things like that. I did keto for a long time. I didn't feel good on keto. And I know for you it's really hard to hear because you believe in this way of eating.
No, I don't. I don't actually. I believe in what works for me. I'm just doing what suits me. I have to say, I'm not actually doing keto though. I'm just low sugar, low carb. Okay. Yeah.
But you still eat a lot of meat and cheese and bacon and...
No, I mean, I eat just a balanced... For example, if I had a plate of food, a third of it might be meat. The rest, most of it would be vegetables or salad, and then a bit of cheese or whatever, or egg.
So in my mind, I would say you're eating sort of meat and 2 veg diet?
Yeah, however I'm feeling, yeah.
It sounds very like the norm of what most people, not the norm as in the sad diet or the bad, but like the norm of what I would consider, 50 years ago we would eat.
Yeah, exactly.
In just the sense of meat and veg.
Yeah, just a balanced
not very
diet.
much sugar, really.
Exactly, yeah.
So I've obviously done that as well because I lived on that most of my life, until I started this journey. I just don't feel good eating meat. I'm going to have that addiction, those cravings, those wants for it. I don't do this because, and this is going to sound really bad, I do love the animals, but I don't do it for them. I do this because this is the way of eating that works best for me and my body and my condition. I feel like these things are more important than what diet you do. I have seen that every single person needs a different type of food and a different way of eating for you to work as a person. So the first year I lost something stupid, like 2-3 stone. And the second year I lost another 2 or 3. But it's been 7 years, and it was literally this year I lost, but the 2 years before that, I was stable. I didn't gain, I didn't lose. I stayed exactly the same. And that was where your resolve gets pushed. You question, is this right? Because most dieters, when they do a diet, firstly, they do a diet. They don't change their whole life. And for me, this is a whole life change. People do it for a month. They do it for 2 months. If you're really strong, you can get to 6 months. I think when you get to the 3, 4, 5 months period, that's when it starts to becoming a lifestyle rather than a diet.
Cutting out processed food has been massive for my mental state. Have you found that changing your diet, because obviously you're still eating quite a lot of processed foods, like crisps or whatever, and vegan foods are very processed. Do you find a difference in your mental state according to what you eat?
I've never seen it.
Right, interesting.
And thinking about it this way, I really hope this is not the case and it has just come out because of the incidents this year. But actually, with the autistic thing, that this year when I've been more strict with eating, and just to clarify, I only eat about 50% or less of my diet from processed. Mm-hmm. All of the rest is, I'm a vegan chef, is plant-based, very healthy food from natural fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds. So I worry a little bit about that question that you just brought up, because I'm like, oh my God. But I think from learning about autistic people and being autistic, I think it probably would always have been there, and just different circumstances have maybe brought it out.
Oh, completely, yeah. No, I'm talking more about, like things like panic attacks or feeling anxious. Do you notice a difference with what you eat? Not in terms of autism, but in terms of just your balance.
No, I don't.
Okay,
I've never found my food to affect me mentally. I find, obviously, my panic attacks, you have to understand, stem from loss of sight. So they're not, and that's a really good one to touch on. I was explaining the other day, they're not like a normal person who has panic attacks because they were in an explosion or because they were hurt or because they're scared of this. Mine happens because I have no peripheral sight. So any situation, too loud, too small, too many people, not enough people, too tight, too big, all of these, pretty much every type of thing that can cause a panic attack, I can have, because the fact of it's because of loss of sight rather than an actual incident. So again, it's a really, I have to say no. It's a really interesting one. I don't even see really with my headaches, but then again, all of these conditions are not mental conditions in a way, because they stem from a general, so my headaches stem from light sensitive problems. My panic attacks happen from the peripheral. I think the autistic stuff happened because it was there before. It's a very hard condition to have, and it's taken a lot for me to get here. It's taken me a lot to fight and never give up, to never stop, to even on my worst days, I know that I go to sleep and I wake up and I start again. And I don't know where it came from. I don't know who gave me that power to never give up. My mom, she's amazing. And when I was much younger and I said to her, why have I been given this? Why did I get given this? And she would say to me, if I could, I would take it away, but I can't. And you were given this because someone else can't cope with it. You are strong enough to cope with this disease, to cope with the things that it throws at you. And I get asked, what would life be like if you didn't have this? And I said, I wouldn't be Jenna. I wouldn't have chosen the things I have chosen in my life. I think that there's a lot of people out there who do that. They see the world very differently, and it's what you do with it. And I think that's what my therapist has been trying to say is, like, you're this incredible person, like, what are you doing with it?
So with all your experience and everything that you've faced and the mountains that you've climbed, have you got top tips for people who are struggling to lift themselves up and to carry on?
I think find what works for you. That's the most important thing. I know it's really hard, for the normal person. You have a job, you have a life, you have all this stuff, and you don't want to spend months and years, not months, years and years trying to find what works for you. But if you don't have the time, maybe like, do the little changes. Set goals that you know in your head you can already achieve, because that gives you self-confidence. Be proud of yourself, no matter what you do. You know, to get up from that knockdown is what is the big thing. How are you going to get up? How are you going to put one foot in front of the other? I think the biggest thing I learned was to be relaxed with food and relaxed with numbers and relaxed with stuff. You know, I say to people, they go, "Oh, you weigh yourself every day? That's so bad for you." I go, well, actually, when I don't weigh myself, it's so bad for me, because I can gain up to half a stone in a day if I'm not careful. And the thing is learning what works for you. Stay strong with your beliefs. If you don't believe that that's right, or you don't believe this, or you don't believe that, that's you. And that is the most important thing in the world. Is a lot of us get infected by people, family, politics, TV, celebrities. I don't think anyone is right in today's society. I think we have to be right for ourselves. Be the very best you can be and be proud of that. Your best might be failing every day, but in the end, don't ask me how I got here. I sort of know, but I failed every day and I managed to get good results. So imagine if I succeeded every day, how it would be. I've had 3 art exhibitions. I've run the London Marathon. I've been around the world. I've ridden horses since I was 6 months old. I rock climb. I've done millions of things, but I've had to do them completely different to every other single person.
Right.
I think life is what you make it.
Well, I love you. And
I love you too. And you are my star. You know?
Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure. I've had such a great time. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care. We'll video next week.
Yes.
We'll text.
All right, honey.
I love you. Take care.
Take care. Love you too. Bye.
Okay. Bye. 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 Bye.